I'm Kgalema Brown. It's Sunday and it's time for The Fix. Welcome to this edition of The Fix, where every Sunday we hold those in power to account. We tell you what matters, how to fix you, and why you should care. As COVID-19 infection rates and deaths continue to climb, so is the outrage over corruption linked to the political elite who are allegedly using this pandemic to enrich themselves, from the presidency spokesperson to some in the ANC's top six, to health MECs and the children of leading politicians, all tangled in a web of corruption allegations linked to COVID-19 tenders awarded irregularly. The outrage in the country is palpable as the politicians scramble for cover. So, are we at a tipping point in South Africa? To help me look at what can be done to rectify the situation, I am joined this morning by former President Kgalema Motlanthe. Mr. President, it's a pleasure to have you on The Fix. Thank you so very much for joining me this morning.
Good morning, Kgalema, and morning to our viewers.
Now, Mr. President, on Friday the 7th, a range of organizations issued a statement and they said, we refuse to allow corruption to destroy South Africa. They said there comes a time when the moral depravity of some in positions of authority and in the private sector undermine the very notion of nationhood and the underlying value of public service. After years of state capture and unethical governance, and more recently, large-scale looting of COVID-19 emergency funding, that time is upon us. And they said, we are compelled to assert this is not how we shall be known as a nation. We refuse to allow corrupt networks in different provinces to go about their criminal activity, trampling on the rights of the honest and law-abiding people. This is a very strong statement, and it does signify that there is a particular mood in the country. What do you make of this statement brought out by organizations such as the Katrada Foundation, the Nelson Mandela Foundation, the Council of Churches, and so on? Does it concern you that this is how they feel about South Africa at this time?
Well, we are all concerned, Kgalema, all South Africans across the board are concerned that matters of probity and accountability appear, to be trampled upon, and so, there comes a time when people simply say, thus far, no further. We can't take this anymore, and that, I think, is the right tone. It will strengthen our democracy, because those who serve in public office must always remember that they serve at the pleasure of the nation and the electorate, so to speak.
Now, one of the big things that undergirds a democracy is, of course, the rule of law and the institutions that must make sure that the rule of law applies. I want to play a clip of Justice Minister Ronald Lamola, where he responds to quite a powerful politician who talks about the idea that law enforcement agencies could be pursuing, political agendas. Let's listen to the Minister of Justice, Mr. Ronald Lamola.
I think South Africa is tired of conspiracies. We have moved beyond conspiracy. We need facts, we need evidence on the table. So if the Secretary General has indeed said that, he must provide that evidence, and that evidence must be scrutinized, and whoever is interfering with the law enforcement agencies must be arrested.
Now, those are quite strong words from the Minister of Justice, essentially throwing down the gauntlet to leaders who keep on inferring and making innuendos that our system is compromised and that it is politically connected. How important is it, President Motlanthe, that the law enforcement agencies act without fear or favor, and that those who cast aspersions on their integrity, that they need to actually present us with the facts?
Well, firstly, you can't question the right of citizens to question what they perceive to be bias on the part of the law enforcement agencies as well as the justice system in the land. That's their right. It's their basic right, and I think the minister is correct in saying that it should not stop there. If there's any, sense that injustice is taking place, and whoever is concerned about it and verbalizes it should also give leads or pointers or adduce some evidence so that action can then be taken, to correct the situation here.
But are you concerned as a citizen of this country that we have seen absolutely no corruption cases linked to state capture taken to court? There is a sense in the country that the culture of impunity is so ingrained in our society that people feel that the law enforcement agencies aren't actually moving as fast as they should.
Yes, that's a source of, concern for many South Africans, myself included, because, when we were hosting the 2010 FIFA World Cup, where, there was special courts were established, and those who tried their hand in acts of criminality were apprehended within a day. By day 3, they were tried and convicted. And I recall that in doing the appraisal of how the systems were jacked up to respond promptly to wrongdoing, we all agreed that this is something that needs to be the norm in how government responds to issues, and including delivery issues, because at that time a whole lot of red tape was set aside in order to ensure that deadlines were met in infrastructure delivery and so on.
That is actually a fantastic example, President Motlanthe, where we were able to take our system, patchy as it is, and make it work. Yeah. Are you suggesting that we do the same now with COVID-19? I mean, the President set up an interministerial committee, and many South Africans feel that it's just another committee, that the law enforcement agencies must actually just speed up their work. So are you suggesting that we have special courts set up like we had during the World Cup to deal with COVID-19 linked corruption?
No, what I'm suggesting is that we need to have our systems working in that manner, in a well-coordinated fashion, and the bureaucratic red tape should be set aside so that you have an efficient, because you see, what serves as a deterrent to a crime is not the long sentences that people are, given once in a decade. It's the knowledge that if you commit a crime, you will not get away with it. Mm-hmm. You will be apprehended, you will be arrested within the shortest possible time following the commitment of such a crime, and you will be charged and tried and convicted if convicted or acquitted within the shortest possible time. It is that knowledge which serves as a deterrent, rather than, a system where nothing happens forever, and once in a blue moon, someone is convicted and sentenced to 3 lives. It doesn't make sense at all. It doesn't serve as a deterrent to crime.
Former President Kgalema Motlanthe, one of the issues that people consistently speak to is that the reason why these cases cannot make progress is because those very institutions were in fact captured and were corrupted. From where you're sitting, are you happy with the progress that the reforms in these institutions have been completed so that they can actually do what they're mandated to do?
Well, I've listened to Chief Justice Mogoeng indicating how the courts are overburdened by people who get arrested for minor offenses, and they still have to go before a court, appear in court, in order for them to be given bail. So he was basically saying, it is better to take time and ensure that, the investigation gathers sufficient evidence so that when a person appears before, in other words, people should not be remanded over and over and over, but that when they appear, they are already charged and the indictment is ready and the prosecution happens. So that because you see, when we speak of the criminal justice system, what he was explaining is that the court side, the justice side, is clogged up by truly cases that shouldn't even be there. And so the system, is overburdened in that way. So we got to ensure that there's thorough-going investigations and that the investigators know what kind of evidence to gather, and the prosecutors then ready to prosecute on the basis of that evidence. The reason why, it looks like nothing is happening is precisely because if people are arrested and the prosecutions don't happen simply because the prosecutors say, look, there's still a lot of investigation that must take place, and matters get postponed over and over. It just, drives ordinary people to lose confidence in the criminal justice system.
Absolutely. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we talk about how we can bring those two processes closer together, whether we need prosecution-led investigations so that we can get away from the long backlog in our courts. Stay with us.